To work. Hello, I'm Philip. I'm usually based in Berlin, and I do like computer stuff with JavaScript and Python. And today I'm going to present on a robot framework. It's a project I discovered a little bit over a year ago, and yeah, it's the tagline I chose today is semicolon-free testing. Just lure you all in here, and this is how test cases in robot framework look like. Very simple, like edited with your text editor. It has a super simple column-oriented syntax. The words login should work and invalid login should not work are the titles of the test, and the lines beneath that are the step definitions that are executed line by line by the robot framework test runner. There's also some variable replacements that are resolved out of the context the test is running in. That's just for first impression. Robot framework is a generic keyword-driven test automation framework. Because that sounds so generic, I'm going to at least give you an impression of how that feels and showing lots of code and lots of examples. It's implemented in Python, but Jython, the Python version that runs on the JVM, is fully supported by the core team. So extending robot framework with Python and Java is treated as a first-class citizen by the core team. And as I said, it's sponsored by Nokia Siemens Networks. It's been open source for quite a few years now, and it's licensed under Apache 2 license, and it's free software. Like 2 slides before, I showed you the test cases that are really simple, text-based, and here are keywords that I can use to abstract away like how things work. Here, for example, are 3 step definitions that I can use to add an item to a cart, to confirm an order, and those call the Selenium library underneath, so that from my test case, I don't have to know, like, is that happening in a browser? I just tell the test is about adding an item to a cart and confirming that the user is logged in, and how that works underneath I don't want to specify in the test because that's not relevant to the test. Then robot frameworks takes the same syntax to also allow to abstract away tests, so you can have higher order keywords that are simply keywords. You can see here this is a higher level keyword that takes arguments, and you can really think of the keywords as function calls. That's what they essentially are. This keyword takes a username and a password function, so I can use it in this test to log in as a valid user and valid password, and then I state, okay, the user should be logged in. And how that works is like handled in the keyword. And I can then stack those keywords at different abstraction levels upon each other. And so I have very high-level tests that specify general workflows, and underneath I have keywords that deal with the fiddly details of how the implementation actually works, like what, for example, the login URL is and how the field names are called. Robot frameworks allows us to tag every test case and test suites, and so I can select which test cases I want to run now. For example, in this test suite, this is the whole test suite. It just has a setting there that's optional. I'm setting the tag story 52. If I'm maybe in an agile environment and all my user stories have numbers, then I can execute all stories that are relevant just by including them, selecting them by a tag, or I can say, okay, if a test case that's tagged with work in progress, if that fails, that's not critical. Please don't fail the build because I'm still iterating on that. That comes in really handy if I want to execute like these two tests, or maybe just run regression tests and fail the build, then if a really critical thing happens. As you've seen before, there are variables that have like different scope in terms of like global, test suite specific, and test case specific. I can just define them here, or can read them in from the command line or from a resource file or the environment, or specify them on the command line. This is super helpful to like switch between different implementations. Maybe during the one run I want to test my application against software emulation of a third-party service, and then in the next run I want to use it against the real service, although that's slower, but I want to see if that works together. Yeah, and Robot Framework unifies like all the popular testing styles that are out there. We've already seen the keyword-driven thing, where it just executes the stuff sequentially. You can use Robot Framework to do the behavior-driven development stuff that's been popularized in the Ruby world. On the lower side, you see the keyword that has the name I log in as username with password, and that's also a high-level keyword, but without the classical argument. It's just replaced with the variables, so I can call it from here. And there's no regex stuff going on, because if you ask me, that's not really necessary in the step definitions. And yeah, the special words given and then are just omitted by Robot Framework when executing, so you can make your tests yeah, sound a little bit English friendly. Then there's data-driven testing. For example, you have like this data validation problem, maybe a credit card number, maybe a postcode. You have like 1,000 definitions. Okay, this is correct, this is not correct, and if this input is, then this error message should be given, and you have them maybe in an Excel file. And you want to just run one parameterized test with all the different values, and then you can do that specifying a test template. That's just the parameterized keyword we've seen before, and like specify the values one after another. Yeah, all the test cases take the test template above and execute. There's setup and tear down, as in every framework, both at test and at suite level, and they make it really easy to keep the test focused. Like with the introductory example, in the specific test, I don't care whether what the actual valid username or the valid password is, as long as it is a valid user and a valid password. I just want to specify like the two conditions I'm testing for, and not yeah, everything else. So I can keep the test focused there and let the context handle, yeah, if the user's logged in, if the database server has been started, if the application has been deployed to the application server, whatever. So here's another even more focused example. Maybe I'm like have a web shop that sells something, and I want to make sure that the postcodes are validated correctly. And given I select the destination Germany, then the postcode 10117 should be valid. And in this example, I don't know which page I'm on. Are there items in the shopping cart? Has the user needed to add payment details? Is the user logged in? Maybe that's a step after that. Is the database running? I don't know about that, but I let the context provide that information for me. Robot Framework comes with a module system that's very similar to the Python one. So all tests are, so for example, the invalid login tests down here are automatically in the login suite. And that's all the keywords in this init text file are available to it. And because the login suite is nested in the web suite, all the keyword definitions one level above are also defined, and I can call them. So yeah, maybe in the web suite I define, okay, you need to start a browser, start the Selenium server, set these few variables, and then down here I can just use them without with just dropping the test in the correct folder, and all the context is there. I can import, the resource statement is really like an import in like any language out there. So I have for the invalid and the valid login test suites, I have a common resource called login.txt where all the definitions I'm using are included. So this stacking of keyword definitions allows for really powerful abstractions, and not just one abstraction between your system under test and your high-level tests, but you can stack them upon another. For example, you have the developers write the low-level interface to the software under test, and on top of that you have like a descriptive semantical domain-specific language that describes your software, kind of like maybe page objects even fit in there. On top of that, you build the tests, and then you can optionally add, fill the tests with test data, so they get executed over and over. There are rich HTML exports. They look like this. This is a project of mine, and you can jump right in them. And then there are this one, the reports, and this is the error log, where you can like really dive into, okay, this test needed a setup, and it's setting up all the databases and starting the Selenium servers. And if I reload that, how does it work? Yeah, there are screenshots I wanted to show you. Yeah, so you can drill down into your test cases and really see what's happening. There's lots of detail output. So now that magical things floating above you, but how can you integrate that? And I think it's really, really easy to use that. If you're using Python, you can like pip install it. It's called Robot Framework. It's on the Python package index. If you're using Java, you just download the jar file from the project's website, and then call it with PyBot and give it the directory with your tests in. There's an IDE that lets you like build, and I use it just for refactoring those tests, so you can like extract keyword and move things around and have auto completion. So you can probably even set non-developers in front of these tests and give them the IDE. There's a project on Google Code that allows you to use Excel files because it's the same column-oriented syntax, and you can use them like both in part of the same project. You can mix and match. Those are Excel files that provide the test data, and then like the normal test files or HTML tables providing the real tests. It supports out-of-the-box tab-separated, comma-separated values, so you can just export your test cases from anywhere you like. It supports HTML tables because that's like a very common data format, and restructured text. That's a documentation thing in the Python world. There's a Jenkins plugin that's really useful and draws like graphs how your tests perform. Now, if you want to extend Robot Framework in a way that you want to reach into your code from the keyword level stuff, you just create a class and make it have public functions that are named somehow, and then load it in the class path, and then you can call it from there. I have a this is how it works if you want to call Python code from the from robot framework. You just add that class somewhere in your class path in Java, then call the library framework, import that, and then you can use the method add2numbers. That's like this one, and that's about it. You don't need to implement any interfaces or load it some special way. Make sure it's in the class path, and then that works. So here's also variables you can then assert on. Yeah, then there's a library. So all the plugins that provide like special keywords in Robot Framework called libraries. And there's a remote library that uses XML RPC underneath, so you can hook into any system or subsystem that has an XML RPC library. And I think that's you can totally see why. At least that's my impression how Nokia Siemens developed that, because I can imagine they have like the requirement to like start up field service here and then dial into them via via SSH or Telnet, and then spin up stuff here and then test against that here, and all these different systems are really good orchestrated with Robot Framework. So for Python, Ruby, .NET, Clojure, Java, and Perl, there are client libraries available that you can directly plug into your system if that's written in one of those languages, and everything else, if there's an XML RPC library available, that will work. There's a Selenium library. It's API complete, it works, it's battle proven. They are releasing continuously new versions. There's like a great documentation for that, where you can see all the keywords. This is probably the complete Selenium 1 API with all documentation. So they take documentation really seriously, and that helps a lot, especially with all the kinky stuff. Documentation, screenshot in reports, comes out of the box, and it works. And the Selenium server jar is included in the Python package, so you don't even need to download that. If you want to, you can specify which Selenium server jar to use on the command line. This is a fork of that, the Selenium 2 library that uses the WebDriver API that aims to be keyword API compatible, so you can swap out in case you have any old Robot Framework tests lying around. And that's work in progress, but people on the mailing list are reporting success stories with using the Selenium 2 library. There are GUI libraries, and here you can see like it's not just about web testing, it's testing those heterogeneous systems that consist of like thousands of different environments. And so you can test like Java Swing GUI applications, Eclipse, SWT applications. There's a plugin for AutoIt, but I'm not a Windows guy, so you can automate GUI stuff there. There are networking libraries, Telnet, SSH, SFTP, they come bundled, I think, and HTTP. And built-in libraries for all the stuff you need, like popping up dialogues for maybe you have manual tests that where someone needs to flip a switch on a physical device, so you can instruct them and integrate them into the development process or the test run. And yeah, operating system includes stuff as creating directories, creating files. There are libraries for manual testing, for databases, for JDBC compatible databases, so you can like create stuff and ask for stuff. And as I showed earlier, it's really, really easy to like write those 2 or 3 integration points with your software yeah, that's about it. One more thing, there's a great, where do I have it? Great user guide that goes into great detail, like where I store my slides from. What Robot Framework is, how it works, and every little thing that it can do. Oh, there's Iron Python. So there seems to be, there's an ongoing effort to get .NET supported as a first-class language. And the project is very active and responsive, like the mailing list is pretty active. They are twittering and responding to email. And yeah, if any of you want to discuss this, ask questions, maybe now, maybe later, come and find me. I'm really happy to talk about it. That's it. Questions? Yeah.
What about parallelizing tests?
Not in the core. So it's probably, you can probably run multiple processes, and I think there's even a utility like to later merge the test reports, so you get one for all the parallel executions. But they had support for parallel keywords, but that's been removed because it wasn't reliable. Yeah, then I mean, even if you think that's a bad idea, I'd love to hear about it. I'm not a representative of them. I'm just an enthusiastic user.
What drawbacks do you think it has? Now that you've used it.
Yeah, I think it's that it is a programming language, but tries not to be one. That's kind of difficult thing, because sometimes you need for loops and sometimes you need like if clauses, and they are there and they are ugly, and I'd rather write that in a normal programming language. But that could also be an advantage if you like take away all the heavy stuff. People can do crazy stuff with, but depends on the viewer. Yeah. That's it, then thank you. Thank you.